Hello, and a very warm welcome to you wherever you're watching us from. How are you doing? Now, experts' cost advice is essential, but there is no use in designing a building that meets all the functional and technological requirements if the client cannot afford it. So today we talk to a quantity surveyor who explains to us her role in the whole process of construction. That's in our discussion today. A little later on, we take a look at how you can accessorize your space using locally found and available Kenyan-made stuff. But first, let's have a look at our property of the week, the amazing Grand Riverside luxury apartments that are designed for the discerning traveler. Take a look. Serviced apartments have been around longer than most people think, and in fact for over a decade. Officially, serviced apartment is the umbrella term for a type of furnished apartment available for short-term or long-term stays, which provides amenities, housekeeping, and a range of services for guests, and where most taxes and utilities are included within the rental price. Grand Riverside Serviced Apartment is one that offers elegance and beauty in the distinguished suburb of Riverside. The 1 and 2 bedroom apartments are overlooking a green expanse in this highly sought after neighborhood. These statement apartments are set to grace the city skyline with a regal gesture of timeless class and style. Grand Riverside showcases a signature pairing of classic and contemporary architecture. Grand Riverside Apartments offers spacious lounge and dining area, boasting contemporary lighting design with large windows cum door that opens up to the balcony. It has an open-plan lounge, dining and kitchen. The kitchen is fitted with cabinets, a double sink, gas cooker and oven area with modern kitchen hood, a microwave and fridge area. The spacious luxurious 2 bedrooms are on the same floor. Their lavish master bedroom is a sight to behold, so warm and cozy, which is en suite with master bath, while the second bedroom is well lit with access to spacious bathroom featuring guest access. What is unique about the guest cloakroom is spacious enough and can also be used as a dobby area. Grand Riverside Apartments make it home far away from home with the following amenities: a rooftop pool, rooftop lounge, borehole, water storage facilities and power backup for common areas and individual apartments, satellite TV and fiber optic infrastructure, high-speed lifts, fire escapes, CCTV surveillance and control room. Intercom, electric fencing, manned security at the entrance, and secure parking for residents and visitors. The location is in proximity to an array of fine dining restaurants, shopping centers, and other recreational facilities. The development is aesthetically designed to offer an enviable atmosphere for luxury for any discerning traveler.
Mwaka wa 90 nilikuwa mtoto mchanga kwa udongo. Nilikuwa bado green. Ndio nilianza huu kazi. Lakini sasa siwezi hesabu kuanzia mwaka wa 90, nitaanza kuhesabu kwa mwaka wa 92.
Nieleze, naona udongo hapo. Unajua unanikumbusha mbali, maana tulikuwa tukicheza sana na udongo tukiwa wadogo. Huu udongo unafika hivi namna gani?
Udongo tunaitoa Nyeri, mali inaita Mkoroini. Watu naenda Nyeri tunachukua kama mali saa 3 hivi. Ndio tuende tuipakue kwenye pickup na ileta hapa kama bado iko raw. Kisha kuja hapa tunaenda tunaimwaga mahali fulani, hiyo tunaistore, tunahifadhi. Tukishahifadhi nitaichukua moja kwa moja na enda na zingiza kwa drum imejaa maji, drum ya maji. Kisha ika kwa drum ya maji nitaichuja, chekecha kutoa mzizi, nyazi, mawe makubwa. Alafu maji na udongo utaenda chini wa drum, maji itaelea juu, udongo utaenda chini. Nitaiacha kwa siku 2 nikuje tena nitoe maji, na huu maji nitatoa nitarudia tena kusafisha hiyo udongo tena nyingine mpaka hiyo udongo ijaze hiyo drum yangu.
Na unajuaje udongo ni mzuri ama si mzuri?
Hiyo ni swali nzuri kabisa, kwa sababu udongo ni tofauti. Nikienda pale nitajua udongo huu ni mzuri, huu ni mbaya. Kuna vile nina ikagua.
Haya, tunafika hapa vipi? Ukishachuja umengoja siku 2, 3, 4, unafika hapa namna gani?
Shaitoa kule, itakaa kwa hiyo trafu kwa wiki 3. Ukishakaa kwa wiki 3 naenda naivuna. Nikishaivuna ndio ndaweka kwa hizi polythene bag.
Tutuonyesha kama unataka kuunda vase kama hii ya maua.
Bas, nitachukua fish liner, nitakuja hapa, chukua fish liner yangu vizuri, ni ukate. Nikishaikata naichukua, naitoa taratibu, alafu nitaiweka kwa meza. Nikishaika kwa meza nitaikanda.
Okay.
Sasa zile nakanda hivi ninatoa upepo ndani, air pockets ndani.
Okay.
Jo, jaribu.
Lakini juice kama chapati.
Kama chapati, jaribu tu. Sasa ikishakuwa sawa hivi, naifunga kama sausage sasa. Kama sausage, na make sure hiko sawa.
Yeah.
Zinafanana na hizi nilifanya kitambo, nilifanya asubuhi.
Okay.
Zinafanana na hizi.
Inatakiwa iwe hivi.
Lazima upime. Yeah. Tuna kipimo pia.
Okay.
Kama hizo za maua, hizi decoration. Yeah. Ukiwa na nyumba unaweza weka kwa decoration yako kwa side cupboard. Mahali popote unafikiri.
Sana, inapendeza
Sasa hii nilifanya asubuhi, na hii tumefanya na wewe.
Kwa hiyo tutumie hii.
Tutumie hii asubuhi.
Sawa.
Nitachukua udongo, nitatafuta hapa katikati, nitairusha hapo katikati. Hiyo nimeshaipata tayari. Okay. Nitatumbukiza mkono wangu moja kwa moja kwa maji. Okay. Alafu nitaanza kuizungusha. Sasa zile naizungusha, nikiweka juu, nikisukuma chini, bado naikanda. Sponge nje, mkono wa kushoto ndani. Udongo ni ule. Hakuna kitu kimebadilika kwa hiyo. Sasa
unajuaje kama inakuwa nyembamba sana ama kama iko sawa?
Hapo lazima utajua kama iko sawa. Utaona distance ya kutoka hapa ndani haijapanuka. Utaona iko kidogo na huku chini itakuwa imepanuka. Sasa inamaanisha udongo uko hapa chini mingi. Alafu taiweka hapa taratibu, nitaivuta kuja kwangu. Sasa umeshaikata. Kila mfinyanzi ana ujuzi wake.
Sasa hivi itakaa muda gani kabla ikauke?
Hii itakaa kama wiki 2 ikauke. Ikishakauka niichome. Nikishaichoma itabadilisha rangi, kutoka kwa hii rangi ikuje kwa ile rangi nataka kuwa nyekundu. Hiyo unaiona pale. Sasa tukishaichoma tutachukua rangi, na hii rangi yangu ni kama unga, ni kama powder.
Yeah.
Nitaweka kwa bucket. Nikishaweka kwa bucket, nitaikoroga vile naweza koroga uji. Alafu nitaangalia thickness ya hii rangi. Nitachukua huu ile imemalizika, nitumbukize. Nitaichukua nipeleke jikoni.
Okay.
Sasa jikoni kishaipeleka, nitaichoma kwa masaa 8. Alafu nitakuja kesho yake niitoe. Sasa hiyo rangi ndo huu moja wao. Hii ni kikombe inatumika.
Ndio.
Hii pia ni sauce.
Yaani baada hiyo masaa 8 inakuwa hivi.
Itakuwa hivyo after tukishaika rangi yetu.
Wow. Yeah. Nini?
Huo ukiwa na pete unaweza zitoa, unazipanga hapa pamoja.
Okay. Hebu ngoja jaribu.
Sasa iko safe.
Okay. Haiwezi anguka na ipotei. Nice. Unajuaje mtu akienda kwa mfano umeingia dukani ama sokoni, sijui utajuaje kama hivi vimetengenezwa na udongo na sio vile imported?
Ndio, udongo wetu ni unique. Udongo wetu sio porcelain, sio udongo nyeupe. Udongo wetu nyekundu na tunaita stone. Lakini zile zimekuwa imported ni ile udongo nyeupe. Kenya tuna udongo nyeupe. Afrika tuseme tuna udongo nyeupe. Udongo nyeupe iko Europe, iko Asia na United States, kule America, South America na North America. Hizo udongo nyoko.
So hii ni stoneware.
Hii ni stoneware.
Unaona kama labda kwa market vitu kama hivi vinakubalika, ama unaweza sema nini? Ungependa kuona nini ikifanyika?
Vitu kama hizi zimekubalika, lakini bei ndio juu. Kwa sababu ukienda kuuza kikombe kimoja kama hichi, ni kitu nikikwambia bei ya rahisi, kitu 650, 500 utaipata.
Sababu ile kazi ambayo imeingia hapo.
Bas.
Okay.
Na zile za China utapata shilingi 200,
hata 150.
150 utapata, kwa sababu wale wanafanya mass production, na hapo tunafanya production, ndio tunasema mass production, lakini ile muda umechukua kwa kutengeneza kikombe kimoja, ukipiga hesabu ina wafi.
Okay. We get to meet a quantity surveyor whose major skill is in the analysis of cost design relationship. What does that mean, Evelyn?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
So what that means is that the quantity surveyor makes sense of the design and relates it to the client budget. So we find a middle ground. We look at your budget. How much money do you have to spend on this project, and what does your project look like? So one of the first things that we do when we meet the client is to ask for their project brief and their budget.
When do you come in as a quantity surveyor?
The quantity surveyor comes in from the beginning of the project, at inception stage. This is when the architect is doing the scheme drawings. So we come in at the same time as the architect. Then we analyze the designs, we break them down into cost elements. Then we relate this to the client budget, and then we give our opinion whether this makes sense or if it doesn't make sense.
However, you also told me that your job is not just about crunching the numbers. There's a lot more to that.
There's a lot of advisory work that I do, because anybody can multiply and add up numbers, but you need industry information to be able to give advice, and by advice I mean relevant advice. So I need to be able to keep myself informed of all the new construction technologies, the new materials in the industry, so that I'm able to give my clients informed opinions.
When you go on site, or when you get onto a project, what is your mission?
My main job is being the financial advisor to the client. And by financing, I mean the cost of the project itself and how you're going to finance your project. Because how you're going to finance your project will determine the kind of how you're going to structure your contract with a contractor and how you're going to carry out your procurement process.
So you come in even before the tendering and things are done?
Yes.
And how do you go about that?
So
what is your participation in the tendering process?
What happens is when you engage a quantity surveyor, the first thing they'll ask you is, do you have a project brief? This is where you tell your quantity surveyor whether you've engaged other consultants, so whether you've engaged an architect, whether you've engaged your engineers, that's civil engineer and the services engineers. So if the client has already engaged these consultants, then you ask them, have they given you any designs? So if they have designs, then you look at the designs, you come up with a cost outlay for the project. So if the client is comfortable with your costing, then you proceed to the next stage. The next stage is usually detailed design and detailed costing. So the architect will go back to the drawing board and detail their drawings, because usually when you're doing preliminary estimates, you're working with scheme drawings. So the architect will detail the drawings, and then you'll get the structural details from the civil and structural engineer. Yeah. And then you do a detailed cost estimate. This is usually contained in the bills of quantities. So you will hear the term bills of quantities, yes, or BQs a lot in the construction industry.
How far do you go in the tendering processes?
So what we do is we prepare the tender documents. Usually the tender documents consist of the bills of quantities, blank bills of quantities for pricing, and then we have the project specifications. This is usually specifications of the materials that you expected to use. You specify the site conditions, because this will affect the pricing. You specify the location, because again the location usually affects the pricing, because different regions have different costs in terms of labor and materials, and also if you're going to be, if like your project is in a very remote area, then that means the construction workers are going to be traveling a longer distance, which means your project is going to cost higher. Again, if the materials that are going to be used are locally available, then you'll have a more economical cost, as opposed to if most of your materials are being imported. So that's also one of my roles, to advise the client. If like maybe the client wants to import all their construction materials, you advise them that, okay, we have these materials in Kenya, consider using this, because this will significantly reduce your cost. So after we prepare, we prepare the bills of quantities, the specifications, and we give the instructions on how the tender is going to be carried out. So we give the tender period, how long do you have to fill these BQs? When are you going to return these BQs? How long is your tender going to be valid for? Is it going to be valid for like 30 days from the day you return? Is it going to be valid for 6 months? Yeah. Those are the details we give in the instructions.
How different is the modern day quantity surveyor from the old one?
So traditionally, the quantity surveyor was mostly a cost estimator. But over time, we've taken up more roles. As the industry grows, as the country grows, we've taken up more roles. So one of the roles that we've taken up is we do dilapidation reports. This is where we assess old buildings. So in case a client wants to restore the building, so we tell them this is how much you're going to need to restore this building to the level that you want it to be. And then we give an opinion. Does it make more sense to repair this building, or does it make more sense to bring it down and build a new one? And then we also do assessments for insurance purposes. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like for instance, if a building has gotten burnt by a fire, so we come in and say this is how much it's going to cost to restore this building to the state it was before the fire. So we advise the insurance company, so this is how much you need to pay your client as compensation for the fire.
Fantastic. To the young, upcoming, budding people in the construction industry, what would you say to them?
I'd say information is power. So learn as much as you can about anything in the industry, so that will keep you ahead of the competition, so that when your client comes with a number of variations to their design, you're able to give them a solution at the top of your head. Information is power.
So how does one become a QS?
So to become a registered quantity surveyor, first of all, the term quantity surveyor is protected by the law. It's governed by the Architects and Quantity Surveyors Act of Kenya, Cap 525. So to become a quantity surveyor, the first step is you have to have a degree in quantity surveying. So once you complete your degree, then you have to have practical experience of about 24 months under a registered quantity surveyor. And I think it's important that you have a professional body regulating the industry, because it's a form of quality control. There are so many quirks walking around, and you need
Talk about that, because I guess, and these are the people who are messing things for us. When we're trying to go one direction, they're taking us
10 steps back.
Yeah.
So it's important, because as a quantity
Who's
surveyor,
gatekeeping? Who's doing the checking, you know?
so the board is responsible for ensuring that all practicing quantity surveyors are actually registered by the board. So and if you read the act, the Quantity Surveyors Act, it spells out the offenses. Like if you're masquerading as a quantity surveyor and you're not registered, there's a penalty for that, and the board will fine you. So there's that, and then there's also quality control, and also as a professional, if I belong to a professional body, I know my responsibility. I have a responsibility to my client, and have a responsibility to my professional body. So I will not just be here misrepresenting my profession. There are checks and balances for that, and I think that is important even for the public, so that you know you have recourse if you're quantity surveyor is misleading you and is giving misleading information and you can prove, then you can go to the board and the board will come to your aid.
Very good information. Thank you so much for that. Do you have a say in what is going on in the country right now? Because there's said to be a construction boom coming up.
So my say is, where I come in terms of market research and feasibility study. So that's one of the things we ask our clients when they approach us. So we ask them, have you done a market research for the kind of building that you want to put up? Like if you want to put up apartments in a certain area, have you studied the market? So if you haven't, then our first step is to do a feasibility study for you. So we tell you, this is how much it's going this is how much it's going to cost you to construct this project, and this is how much you're going to get out of the project once it's constructed, and this is how long it's going to take you to make your money. So we advise. So we give cost advice, we give financial advice on the viability of projects.
Yeah. Does your profession pay?
I'd say this, yes, and it has a good progression path, because like I said, the profession is diversifying. So once you get registered, you can go into any number of industries.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And all the very best.
Thank you.
It was awesome. Quite enlightening.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for staying with us. Before we go, how does your dream home look like? Let's take a look at our story today with our homeowner.
There are many reasons why you desire to own a home. Number one reason for us is the landlord. You have this landlord who comes to inspect your house, actually his house, and reminds you every time that nyumba ni yake. And then I traveled to the US. I think there was so much pressure on Madame that she wants us to be paying quarterly instead of monthly. So imagine those kind of decisions that people throw at you. So I recall the first thing we did is to get a circle loan. At the time was that National Media Group, to buy plots in Kitengela. The desire was to build a house in Kitengela and move there. But building a house also has its own challenges. So years move on before you start your building. Then I found myself working at NSSF, which happened to be a blessing. I was a public relations manager, and the house was being sold. So the idea of building the house was put on a hold because of the chance to buy one that is ready.
The choice of buying, I would say yes, I was part of that decision, because I was thinking into the future. Where would I want the kids to grow up? And where would I want to, I needed to feel settled and at home. And then also you just want a place where children can feel settled and just grow. So if I was advising somebody, I'd say where you're at, and especially the younger you are, if that's where you were thinking of going, just start now.
When I was in NSSF, the model that NSSF was using is what Indonesia and Malaysia borrowed. They actually came and borrowed from Kenya. And they went and used it to transform their economies. Where the government, where the Parastatal develops houses that are affordable to the middle class and even people of lower income. And then once you finish paying for your house, you can upgrade by acquiring a bigger, better house than the one you had originally. But in the long run, the idea was to have as many citizens as possible. Let's say in Nairobi, for instance, owning homes. So the money that people spend on rent can go elsewhere in the economy. But as we have it in Kenya, great ideas normally get hijacked or they die. So that was a good way of empowering people to own homes.
All these empty spaces, empty houses all over town. And why are they empty? I think we have to be conscious of the state of our economy. It's really tough going for a lot of people. I think when those developers conceptualized those places, they had a certain market in mind, which is all very well. But unfortunately, their market is also in disarray, in the sense that a lot of people have been let go of. I mean, the jobs are shrinking. So we are, I want to imagine that we here in Kenya, we're in a state of transition. So until things pan out, and maybe they'll want to think, and that is where now again this thing about financial inclusion, where people now sit down to think, the developers, the people doing the financing, the people in this whole industry, just think, how do you unpack this? So that even in as much as we have all this space here, how does it get taken, you know? Yeah.
That's all the time we had for you on today's edition of the show. I would like to really thank all our guests on the show. It is always a pleasure hanging out with you. And please remember to also consider taking on the services of a QS, for like the ladies say, they do much more than cost analysis. Until next time, remember to talk to us on our social media handles at Jamila Mbogwa and at NTV Property Show. Hadi mara nyingine, asante sana.